Hi guys, hope you are having a great day and don't have to deal with crazy sisters-in-law. First story I have for you today is about OP's sister-in-law, who scheduled her baby shower the same day as OP's wedding shower, and after that, scheduled her C-section same day as OP's wedding. What an a-hole! Enjoy the stories, guys. I think I might at least partially be an a-hole in this situation, so I'm opening it up for discussion. Thanksgiving last year, my now husband and I announced our engagement and our intention for a June wedding. A few weeks later, my brother-in-law and sister-in-law announced the pregnancy of their first child. My sister-in-law is very young, and she grew up very spoiled. She's still very self-centered, but since her pregnancy, she has started maturing. Despite our personality differences, she and I have grown sort of close. I was genuinely excited about the baby. My mom wanted me to have a wedding shower, so I picked late May. I sent out invites for May 19th. About 2 weeks before my shower, my sister-in-law sent out invites for her baby shower, for May 19th. My husband's relatives who I had invited and who had RSVP'd my shower, skipped my shower for hers. Sister-in-law showed up at my shower in the last hour wearing a white dress, a tiara, and a pink satin sash over her chest. Husband and I picked June 8th for our wedding. We had everything set up, everything paid for, a church and a minister, reception hall. It was all set and ready to go. About a week before the wedding, sister-in-law announces that she scheduled her C-section for June 8th. She is not ill, nor is the baby at risk, but sister-in-law has a placenta condition that makes vaginal birth dangerous. My mother-in-law and father-in-law told us that if they had to choose between the first grandchild and our wedding, they'd choose the baby. Then his grandparents, his 3 aunts and 2 uncles, and several cousins all said they wanted to be at the hospital for the baby. This family is incredibly close-knit, and babies are a big effing deal for them. Then, a bunch of their family friends got wind that these relatives weren't attending and backed out as well. One afternoon right before the wedding, sister came over and asked if I was upset. I sort of went off on her. I didn't yell or use physical violence, but I did cuss. Basically, this is what I said. Yeah, I'm upset. I'm ducking mad. You've been an a-hole to me lately, and I don't know why. You stole the day of my wedding shower, and now you're stealing my wedding day. One day out of the mother-ducking year, I want to be the one who's in the spotlight, and now I can't. And it ducking hurts. I've put so much work into this damn wedding. Husband is upset and doesn't want to have a wedding anymore. Just the courthouse. You've stolen my day and the excitement. Yeah, I guess you could say I'm ducking upset. Get the duck out of my house. Good luck with the baby. Sister-in-law safely delivered a baby girl, and both are doing well. My husband was still hurting and didn't meet the baby until she was 3 weeks old. I have yet to meet the baby. My brother-in-law texted me recently and called me a ducking D, and told me to suck it up and come meet the baby. I'm not mad anymore, but I am hurt. I don't blame the baby. I just don't want to see brother-in-law and sister-in-law. Am I the a-hole for going off on her and refusing to go meet my new niece? Edited to add info. Wedding was June 8th. Sister-in-law due date was June 14th. Brother-in-law said the doc wanted to do the surgery on June 12th, but sister-in-law insisted on the 8th. It wasn't an emergency C-section. She had no complications due to the condition and had known it would be a C-section since month 5. I had already informed everyone of my due date before that point. Save the dates had been sent out before she scheduled her surgery. Edited to add info. Regarding her shower date and mine, I asked everyone close to me if my dates conflicted with their schedules. Sister-in-law said the dates both worked for her. Up until she actually sent out her invitations, she was telling everyone she was throwing her shower the first week in June. Edit info. Not everyone who canceled, just the family. My husband has a large, very close family. Like, almost creepy close. His mother has a few sisters, and they routinely sleep in the same bed after spending a whole night watching Netflix and drinking wine. His dad always calls one of his brothers for opinions on things as mundane as switching fishing lures or bait. His brothers routinely get together to work on their cars together, so they can all exchange advice. It's actually very sweet, but I came from a small family, and we weren't very lively or affectionate. I had a sister who died quite young, and my parents were very emotionally closed down after she died. They weren't unloving, but I think they were so scared of the pain at losing my sister that they didn't want to risk losing me and loving me so deeply. My mother and father got therapy, and our relationship is wonderful now. But I still get a little uneasy around open and affectionate families. When I first met my mother-in-law, This adorable little short woman who is pleasantly plump with a blonde bob and big blue eyes. She threw her arms around me and welcomed me to the family. I actually started crying because I still wasn't used to physical motherly affection. OP is not an a-hole. Man, that's super intentional and crappy. I'm sorry. I have no idea when OP thinks she'd be the a-hole. OP's sister-in-law went above and beyond to screw OP over and insist on being in the spotlight. I'm part of a tight-knit group of friends. There's 6 of us, who have mostly been together since school, with one joining later. Well, last year, one of the girls, let's say Janet, got engaged, and we were all very excited. She had said she wanted all the girls to be her bridesmaids, with her sister as maid of honor. At the engagement party, Janet was going to give the bridesmaids little gifts each to say thank you. All the girls got one, apart from me. I was a little upset, but didn't say anything until about last December when one of the others mentioned about dress shopping. They had assumed I was invited, but I hadn't heard anything about it. When I asked Janet, she simply said I wasn't going to be a bridesmaid, so should I be invited? I respected her decision, but asked if I could come along to the meal afterwards. Janet said yes, and I met the girls at the restaurant. While we were having food, Janet kept on about how gorgeous her dress was, and how beautiful all the other girls looked in their bridesmaids' dresses, etc. I thought nothing of it, and assumed they were just excited about the dresses. Of course, I was a little envious, but I didn't say anything. At the end of the meal, I asked the girls what color the dresses were again, so I didn't pick to wear a similar color. Janet went mad. "You are not wearing a dress to my wedding." When I asked why, she said that it was because I'll look better than all of them. I didn't know what to say. I'm overweight and have an awful complexion. I'm not what others would call beautiful by any means. Some of the girls later said she was still upset that I wore a pink dress to prom, and how I stole the show from her. Anyway, with everything going on, the wedding was postponed until recently. I had completely forgotten about Janet's rant last year, and wore a pastel blue knee-length dress. When I arrived at the reception, the only part you're allowed guests, Janet freaked out. She threw a complete fit, screaming and shouting that I was ruining her big day. I told her she needs to stop being so insecure, especially about me. She's the one who got married after all. She then threw red wine on my dress and said, "That's for crashing my wedding." The other girls tried to calm her down, but she was insistent that I was only doing it to make her look bad. 2 of the girls had a go at me for even showing up. You knew how much this meant to her. I left in tears. I had a ruined dress and had lost my friends, who all think I was insensitive and an a-hole. Everyone has pretty much blocked me on everything. Honestly, I don't know what I did wrong, or what was so bad that everyone's turned on me. Am I the a-hole? Edit. Yes, I was invited to the reception. With the new rules in place, only 30 guests are allowed at the venue, and all must have an official invitation provided by said venue. Update 1. Since I feel like this needs to be said, my social cues are abysmal. I'm autistic and have always found it difficult. I am a cis female. I know some of you were wondering. It's just that I don't wear dresses very often, and when I do, people notice the difference. And the bridesmaids' dresses were going to be pink, but they chose lavender instead. On a side note, I have asked to speak to Janet's sister, who thinks she knows what Janet's problem with me is. I genuinely don't have a clue. And for those of you wondering, Connie, Tammy, is a separate person to Janet. But Janet was the one who told Connie, Tammy, about my cousin's wedding, which I am now thinking might have been on purpose. Update 2. I have spoken to Janet's sister, and I'm gonna be honest, it's nothing special. She said that Janet has never really liked me, why she didn't want to come to my cousin's wedding, and was the one who told Connie she was invited to it. And the only reason her and the others were nice to me was because they felt sorry for me because I'm autistic, and found it difficult to make friends. If my mom hadn't died, they would have ditched me a long time ago. They were just looking for a reason to do it now. They thought by excluding me from the bridesmaid stuff that I would just kick up a fuss, but I was too nice about it. She did in fact invite me to the wedding out of politeness and pressure from her mother and sister. Janet's sister is very upset about it all and is on my side. She's going to pay for my dress, as she feels it was partly her fault, and she knows that Janet won't. I have a few good friends left, and that's all I need. OP is not an a-hole. Those cows aren't friends of OP's. And the bride and her bridesmaids deserve each other. It's so childish of all of them to be hung up on what did or didn't happen at prom. Bride still sounds jealous of OP. These girls have shown OP who they really are, and OP should believe them. OP can definitely find some better people with whom she can forge real relationships, because these girls really weren't ever OP's friends to begin with. Back in March, my 17-year-old son Kyle expressed an interest in getting into stocks. Kyle hasn't really worked a day in his life, and thus didn't have the savings to show for it. So I told him I would fund his initial deposit, provided he follows my 2 rules. He must write a 2-page essay on any stock he wants to invest in. This would show he put quality research into his investments, and he's not allowed to day trade at all. This was to discourage high-risk trading, so he can focus on building a long-term portfolio. In exchange, I funded $10,000 of his account. He agreed, and I set myself up a Robinhood account under my name and gave him the credentials. The first few months, he did send me reports on companies he liked, like Tesla, DocuSign, Datadog, and while I'm not personally familiar with them, his research was good, so I allowed him to buy them. These last months or so, though, he stopped writing me these papers. So last Monday, I asked him to show me his account. He was a bit hesitant, but reluctantly agreed after some prodding and threats of losing his privilege. His account looked like the most 100% risky out-of-this-world account I've ever seen. His account had peaks and valleys of upwards of $100,000 or more. With my original investment, his account went to as low as $2,100 and as high as $186,000. It was currently sitting at $66,000 after a very steep decline in the last 5 days. He admitted he was trading options, which, to the uninformed, are very sophisticated trading instruments that can wipe you out in a couple of days. I'm pissed that he basically ignored 100% of my rules. But at the same time, I'm impressed that a 17-year-old kid can sextuple and upwards of 18 times his original investment in less than half a year. I told him that I'm taking $51,000 from his account. My rationale is that I will create a long-term investment fund for him, full of high-quality stocks like Apple, Microsoft, Google, etc. I told him he can keep $5,000 profit and whatever he makes from now on. He is downright against this and says it's his money and he plans to use it to buy a Tesla, a car he wanted since starting his essays. I told him it was my money earned under my name and I'm doing it, or I'm closing the account. He reluctantly agreed because I was going to make do with my threat, but has been pissed off this past week. He tells his mom that I stole his life savings. I know he's mad now, but I know he will be thankful when he inevitably destroys that account. I'm not keeping his money forever and plan to give my investments to him when he turns 25. Right now, I feel like he has no concept of how much 50 grand is, because he's never worked and essentially made it gambling. Additionally, 50% in 5 months, what I allowed him to keep, is still something even the best investors can dream of. Am I the a-hole for taking his money? OP is not the a-hole. OP's son's not the a-hole as well, because I would be absolutely infuriated in his position, and I believe his anger is justified. OP is not the a-hole because that's good parenting. OP is setting his kid up for life, at the cost of him being angry at OP for a couple of months. My brother Daniel phoned me yesterday asking for a favor. He wants me to employ his daughter Amanda. Amanda is the same age as my daughter Mel, and used to torment and bully her when they were little. Mel was a tomboy, and this got her a lot of bullying from Amanda, who is very girly. She used to tell Mel that she wasn't pretty enough and call her all kinds of nasty names, such as freak, etc. By the time they were teenagers, I barely spoke to Daniel's family because they spoiled and pampered their daughter and always sided with her even when she was blatantly bullying Mel. Mel did fairly well at school and now works as a locksmith. She loves her job and she's also engaged to a wonderful man named Steve. Amanda, meanwhile, got the very best grades and got into a prestigious university on one of their hardest courses. But things went wrong from there. During Amanda's 3rd year, she and her now ex-boyfriend went on a drink-fueled night. Her boyfriend violently stole a car, which Amanda drove around on a joyride. Police caught up with them, and both were jailed. These offenses are quite serious here in the UK, and she spent a few years in there before being released a few months ago. While she was inside, I reached out to Daniel and his wife Monique to be a shoulder to cry on. Amanda was planning to work in the financial sector, but that's not a possibility now, since she didn't finish her degree. In fact, with her convictions, she struggles to find any kind of work. Supermarkets and retail won't even consider her. She works for an agency as a cleaner. The problem is that she's on a 0-hours contract and has spent days and even weeks out of work. She has very little money and is anxious to find a permanent job. I have a small printing business. Daniel wants me to take Amanda on as a trainee or assistant. I said no for 2 reasons. 1. When Daniel was talking about Amanda's struggles, he was talking about how she's had to sell her lovely clothes to make ends meet. Her parents have always bought her expensive designer stuff, and she was an awful snob towards Mel about it, calling her clothes rags and things like that. She used her nice clothes to lord it over people, and Daniel saying that she can't do that anymore, like it's a bad thing, irks me. 2. More importantly, Daniel was quite rude about the industry. Amanda is a clever girl, but he honestly thinks she could pick it up in a day because it can't be that hard. He stated that Amanda is overqualified for this job, so employing her shouldn't be an issue. He showed no respect to my hard work whatsoever, so why should I help his daughter? My husband Mark thinks I should give Amanda a chance. I disagree. She was an awful bully to Mel when they were younger, and her parents bent over backwards to protect her from the consequences of her actions, and they clearly see their daughter as above my work. Why should I help her now when she doesn't deserve it? OP is not the a-hole. The biggest red flag is that Amanda didn't approach OP herself. If she had come to OP with her CV and a list of references, I would recommend giving her a chance. OP's brother is still enabling his daughter to be spoiled and entitled.